Today, me and Mike are going to be teaching you how you can actually be a successful nice guy. And me and Mike ain't that nice, which is why we have Andrew here. He's qualified on actually helping nice guys. Me and Mike ain't. So, Andrew, just first of all, when you say nice guy, what does that mean, that word, to you?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, you could kind of expand it and make it a big thing and really, make it just concrete. And I would just really say it's the modern man who feels like he has to be nice or, just kind of kind, timid to be accepted, to get along with others, to really be valued as an individual.
Okay. It's a bit of a different definition than I would have imagined, so it's always good to ask for clarification. And where does this come along in your journey, helping nice guys being your calling?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, as I look back, in terms of even like my teenage years, right? One of the things that I noticed as, I probably didn't notice it as I was a teenager, but as I reflect back, that a lot of my desire to be connected to others, came from being, just wanting to be accepted, right? So
Yeah.
I was nice, I was kind, I kind of got along with everybody, right? And um, as I kind of moved out of high school into adulthood, it's served me in a lot of ways, right? Just being this nice guy, this happy, I guess jovial individual that um for the most part life was pretty good. But then as I start getting into, my career, my marriage, it's there almost starts to be a bit of a breakdown in that sense where like being nice actually isn't helping me create the things that I want or being calculated or strategic. And so, when you just that question that you ask, like why is this a part of my calling? Well, it's part of my calling because it's who I've also been. I've been that nice guy who, works really hard and wants to create a great life, but there always seem to be barriers in the way, right? There might be somebody who had, other leadership qualities or sort of more boisterous leadership qualities that might get a position over me, not have an impact. So that's where I really support people now is like, yeah, how can you still be a nice, good person, but also stand up for yourself or be authentic for yourself or even develop the leadership capabilities that like when decisions need to be made, you can be in your strength, but you're still that nice, good person in general.
That kind of leads me into another thing I wanted to ask you about. Why? Because on your LinkedIn profile it says you help nice guys to become confident and authoritative. Correct.
Yeah, I'd say authentic.
Authentic. See, always
Yes,
good to ask for clarification.
no worries.
So, why do you think that's a problem for a nice guy? I have my assumptions up here, but you can probably give a more correct answer than I ever can.
Yeah, I think at the base level, so well, one, when we talk about confidence, generally nice guys, they're lacking that inner confidence. They're lacking that, it kind of expands to a bigger thing in terms of masculinity in general right now. But like, I just find, most men these days, they, through their environment, through their relationships, they've kind of gotten beaten down a little bit, right? That young guy, maybe that 5-year old to 12-year old who was confident and playful and just had that lust or that sort of joy for life, it's kind of gotten beaten out of them over the years. So then now they start to question themselves. They question their abilities. They question their skill sets. Maybe they are have great skill sets in one area of life in their career, but they struggle in relationships, right? So
Mm.
that's that one area, in terms of confidence where, I support with. But when we actually start to look at like the authentic aspect of things, so a lot of nice guys, again, it comes back to that place of like, in order to be accepted, like the belief, a lot of the times the belief structure is like, in order for me to be accepted and loved, I can't be myself. So I have to be strategic. I have to, kind of get along with people and follow their path rather than actually speaking my truth.
And how do you help people learn that mental shift? I'm thinking particularly of people in their early 20s. I
Mm-hmm.
work with a number of them, males.
Yeah.
And as you say, the kind of masculinity as it used to be for my generation has kind of been beaten out of them in various ways. What are some things that we, like regular old civilians that are experts like you, how do we encourage these people to get hold of their masculinity, that they can still be nice, they can be courteous, they can be trustworthy and kind and all these things, but they don't have to be like these doormats?
Yeah.
So how do you communicate that to a different generation?
Yeah. And the beauty of that is that it really is a in the communication of that, it really does go across all generations. The things that are showing up in terms of like how we see ourselves, I've seen it from the 19-year-old to the 60-year-old. There's the same dynamic there. And so one of the ways that I just start with people is really getting them connected to like, what are your qualities? What are the actual qualities that you bring to the world? And we're not talking about the qualities of achievement, right? Like, what, sports trophies did you win, or what, rewards have you won on in your job, or, the girl that you've gotten. Those are all just like, we'll call it byproducts of who you're being, right? So the
Yeah.
place that I start to work with these men is like, what are the qualities that people generally sense in you, right? Do they see you as courageous or leader, or even if you step away from those, like, what do you actually like about yourself? What are the qualities that you actually like about yourself? So a lot of guys will be like, well, I'm generally a positive person, or I like to be connected to others. And that's where we start, is just getting them connected back to, these are the qualities of who you are innately. Whether you're having a good day or a bad day, you still bring these qualities into the world. And from there, that really builds the foundation of them developing more self-confidence. And then it leads to, okay, from me being this person who I see myself as happy, I see myself as somebody who does have motivation. Now I can actually start to create those other things in life that I'm looking to create, like maybe the job or the girl, or more like developing a better fitness plan, those types of things. But it always starts with that conversation around the core. And the other thing I'll just add to that too is that I just find that men being in conversation together and understanding that they're not the only one out there with these problems, that in itself is a huge awareness point. Like, oh, that there are other men like me who have these struggles. It kind of creates that, commonality in the sense where it's like, okay, like, if it's not just me struggling with this, then I can start to just build from this. I can start to see that there's other, if this man has struggled with this thing, and he was able to overcome it, well, maybe I can too.
Yeah, that's been a powerful thing for most of us, is the older guys showing us what they went through.
Yes.
We can't see the future, but there's a lot of older fellas that could look back and tell us about their past, and that can be super helpful.
Absolutely. And just that in itself, having, there's the term might not be the best term, but I mean, like, some people would refer to that as like, there's elders, there's just,
Oh yeah.
men, just our men in our communities who have that wisdom, they have that experience. And again, it's not just going to be any man, because there might be men out there that have a very negative outlook on life, right? So you want
Yeah.
to be surrounding yourself with the folks who, like, you know are generally, yeah, maybe they've been through some stuff in life, right? But they're generally coming from that place of mentorship. Like, they see the youth, or they see those younger generations, and like, my wisdom could actually support them.
So for the young person that's sitting and listening to this, and he knows he lacks a bit of confidence, and he doesn't really have that within him. Don't feel like he's worth it. It could be some imposter syndrome. There's plenty of different ones. What is a good place for that person to go out and start if they can't find a mentor?
I mean, I would look at some sort of a men's community, right? Like look locally in your city or town if there's, again, and we're looking for communities that are uplifting. There's
Yeah.
things like Mankind Project. It's an international organization. They have chapters all over the world. Something like that where it's really the mentality of the organization is the uplifting of men. It's really about like, creating a greater man, a more, responsible man. So that's where I would look is, and at the same time, depending on where this man is at, also looking at AA groups, maybe there's church groups. There's a lot of opportunities out there for men because again, what we're speaking to is, sort of the two criteria is that being in a space with men and being in an uplifting space, being in an empowered space where the conversation is actually supporting people to move forward. That's really, and that's where I would start is looking for that on the local level. And then if you can't find that, starting to look online. Maybe if you're in some small town that doesn't have that, there's going to be virtual options. Now, obviously, virtually, you're going to have to do some searching, right, to find the group that works for you. Then the last place that I would really propose to that person is like, if you can't find the group, could you create it, right? Because there's power in that, and again, it doesn't have to be something massive. It could literally be like you and 3 people who you feel like are close and empowered in your life, where you guys just get together for coffee, but you're actually talking about the deeper elements of life. It's not like, hey, who won the latest football game, or this is the car I'm looking to buy. It's coming in with that intention of having that deeper conversation to support each person.
Yeah, what I'm getting, it could basically be anything. You could also be sitting with a board game, as long as you're just having that
Absolutely.
conversation of uplifting and kind of wanting to see the best from each other.
Totally.
One,
And
yeah,
well,
go
I was just
ahead.
gonna say, like, even one thing in that too, right? Is like you could even, with say like a board game type event, right? Like you may want to do it like one week you guys have sort of a group meeting, group discussion, and then the next week you have board games. You kind of mix it up a little bit to sort of bring in different levels of connection between the
Yeah,
group.
and not as big of a thing. It's probably also easier to convince your friends if you want to do that to start playing board games, and then slowly put the feelings into it and going the other way around.
Yeah, that's how guys are. Yeah.
One thing I was very impressed by the first time we talked, and this is something, the reason why it impresses me is you had quite a good corporate job before you started your own business. The thing about that is you always take a big risk when you start your own business. And when you have a good corporate job, then you have a lot more to lose than somebody that has like a minimum wage job. How did you find the confidence within yourself to do that? I think that could be helpful for our listeners, or some of them, to hear that story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so when I look at that experience, I mean, one, it wasn't like a massive jump from one to the other, in the sense of like, actually, if I was to share that in just more of a straight way, like it wasn't it wasn't abrupt. I would say that's the word I would use, right? So when I started building the coaching business, that was back in 2019, right? About August of 2019. And so I had, I just moved into full-time coaching in January of 2024, right? So I had a pretty good window of time to build the business part-time, to put the structures in place, to understand how actually to build a coaching business during that period of time while I had the safety of the income. And so in that time period, basically I was gaining more confidence. I was understanding how the business systems work. so that by the time that I was able to make that transition to full-time coaching, it, you know, it was just a lot easier, right? There wasn't as much pressure. And yeah, you know, so as I stepped into full-time coaching now, yeah, there's definitely differences, right? Now it's not in the, you know, in the past it'd be like, okay, I get to any revenue I generate, I can just put it back into the business or invest in myself, you know, because I have this full-time income. Not as much now, right? But like I would say, without being so wordy about it, really just I had a long runway to build the business and make that transition. And in that long runway, I also saved up a lot of money too, right? From the coaching business. So, you know, as I'm stepping into my own business, I have money, right? I have the money that's there to support me when maybe I have some down months or that type of thing. And I think that that's really important because, you know, again, everybody's going to be different, but like if you have to sort of make this abrupt change
Mm.
and then you don't have the savings in place to support that, it could create some rocky times. So I hope that answers your question. I was kind of wordy around that a bit.
Well, it definitely answered, and I think both the rub ending has its advantages because it means you're gonna get going, or else you're gonna
Yes.
fail. It puts you in the like you have two options basically. Where with the other one, and this is something I can relate to because that's my own approach to it. Sometimes we get, especially in the start, oh, I feel a bit off. I wanna sleep, or I've worked hard enough. All of that. It kind of is a lot easier to put in those excuses. But then go back, work on your why. Why are you actually doing this? Making it
Yes.
important. Mike
Absolutely.
looks like he has a question for some reason.
Not a question so much as a comment followed by a question.
Okay.
Andrew, one of the things that we've seen in business with men that try to be nice guys, and they're genuinely nice, they're getting stomped on at work, and so the layoffs come around. Boom, they're out of a job along with a bunch of other people. What are some tools we could give our listeners if they're in that situation? Obviously, we want to say the basics of, you know, don't doubt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And don't stop being a nice person. But now we need to get confidence to go out there and make something happen. So how do you go from that depth of despair as you're about to climb the cliffs of insanity to get to the top? And you're like, what can we do to help those folks?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's sort of two parts to it, right? The first is actually being intentional about what it is that you're going to take on next, right? So, you know, if you've been laid off or you've left this job, you know, kind of like Mads was speaking to, if you just go on a whim and trust that you'll be in action to go create the thing that needs to be created, it might work for a while, but then like momentum will slip. So really having, you know, structures and a plan in place that it's like, okay, if you need to go get a job, what's that going to require? How many interviews are you going to be doing a week? How many people are you going to be sending your resume? Like you need to actually have those concrete, you know, steps in place that you're going to hold yourself accountable to. So that's sort of like on that side of things, to sort of have that structure in place. The other side of it, when we talk about the confidence of the mindset aspect of it, and I mean, this is the crazy thing. I was even thinking about this week. It's still something that comes up for me. Like my confidence and ability to like just be myself has skyrocketed over the last couple of years. But I still notice there's sometimes that sort of like, you know, interviewee aspect of things where it's like, oh, I got to prove myself, or like, I got to look good, you know, that type of thing. I think that's sort of like, it's always kind of going to be there. But what I will speak to for, you know, whoever is listening is like, I will tell you from being in the corporate world, like the easy thing is that we undersell ourselves. We undersell our skill sets and our knowledge. And the thing that I see over and over and over again, because I did hiring for the company that I worked with, is like we really do undersell how much experience and our skill sets that we have. Because my experience has been, you know, when I step into a job, yeah, there might be a learning curve for a little bit, but generally people figure it out. even if you're stepping into a leadership role, like you can figure it out. And then what happens is like you're overqualified at some point pretty quickly, right? Like obviously, like it's not black and white, but I generally see that where it's like we step into an employee environment where we feel like we don't have the skill set. We develop the skill set quite quickly, and then we're probably being underpaid or undervalued in the company. And so really embodying from the beginning that like you've got the skill sets and the ability to go get the job that it is that you want, and really trusting that. And that, that's a process. You're going to have to go through that, but like again, I'm being a bit wordy about it. I think that it's easy to think that like all the cards are on the table of the employer. They're the one paying you. They're the one that's got the ability to give you the job. And again, if I would circle back to saying one more thing about that, it's like, do not forget the gifts that you're bringing that organization as well. The skill set that you're bringing, the knowledge that you're bringing, the work ethic that you're bringing, they need it just as much as you do.
Yes. They are
Yeah,
equally as screwed if no employees come in as you are if you get fired.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just wanted to check Mike. Mike had something smart to say, sometimes does. Comes from time to time. I like to mess with him. Otherwise, our egos blows up too big. Like I would say I'm a confident person. And I'm not scared of what other people think of me. I learned that the hard way of doing cold calling and being rejected 100 times in a day. Then you pretty quickly figure out, okay, all of these people that don't like me today, they didn't really change my life, did it? Then it kind of clicked that way. But I still sometimes get, is this right? Am I good enough? And this kind of self-doubt. It creeps in. And it's about, like, diffusing it, for me at least, as quickly as possible. And I think another thing that has helped me massively with my confidence is whenever I'm speaking to myself internally and I notice something that I don't like, I'm going to make sure to rewind that and change what I just said to myself. Like, let's say I am not good at sales because I just started. If I just say I'm not good at sales, well, I'm not good at sales because I just started, so I know I will also get better. Then all of a sudden, that's a much more positive sentence to tell your own brain. So kind of sticking to this point, is there other ways of our audience listeners that's sitting here and listening to us today that can go out and implement something tomorrow or tonight that will slowly help them give more confidence?
Yeah. I'm sitting with, what you shared there and seeing what I can add. I mean, I think that piece that you spoke to in terms of like just the reframe, right? Just even as simple as noticing, right? Noticing where that self-talk is coming from, or noticing like, if I just sort of play with that example you gave, somebody new in sales or starting out, the common belief would be like, I suck at sales, I'm never going to get this, right? And so it's really great what you're speaking to in terms of like, reframing that piece, right? And what else would I say to that? I mean, I think that we as human beings do not give enough credit to the past successes that we've had. As I spoke about earlier, when, a part of that confidence building is really understanding the qualities of who we are. Another way that we can do this is actually really just sit with on a daily basis, what are some of the successes that I've had, right? So maybe you are new at sales, but maybe in the past you had a flourishing retail, you worked in retail and you got accolades for being really strong at customer service, right? We want to actually build up those experiences and replay them in our lives over and over and over again, because then what starts to happen is like there's an energetic transferability, right? Yeah, okay, owning that's like, yeah, I'm new at sales, but I bring all this experience and I've had all these successes in the background that are going to help, and if I've created success there, I can create success here.
Yeah.
It's really powerful.
Since we are on the subject of sales, one question me and Mike really like to ask business owners that come on our podcast is, how did you get the first sale? No testimonials, no nothing. That's the hard one. And most people give up before they even get to that point.
Yeah, it was, so when I think on the coaching side of things, I had been doing pro bono coaching for about maybe 5 months. I'll speak to two parts. One, so one of the things that I picked up pretty quickly in the coaching industry is that there's a lot of great coaches out there.
Yes.
And they're not great business owners. And so even when I first started out, and again, I have a marketing background, so I could see it, right? And so when I first started out, I actually got support on the business building side pretty much after I did my first coach training program. So I was already in that energy of like, okay, I'm building the business. I'm building this to create income, create a revenue stream. So in that, as I tend to talk a lot, right? So, as I sit with that, what kind of just happened was there was a point where I just made a decision that I was not just going to be offering free coaching anymore. I was ready to start making a paid offer. And from that, I put an offer together, and I was in a conversation with a man. We probably had maybe 1 or 2 coaching calls at that point. And then I just told him like, hey, if we're going to continue this coaching relationship going forward, here's the offer. Here's what we're going to be doing together, and this is going to be the cost of it, right? And then obviously there's more to the conversation than that, but I think it's really that point where it's like you've got to really own that, like, you will get that first sale, and not only will you get that first sale, you are looking past even the first sale. You're creating that business, and that's what I would share in terms of like, how I got my first sale and what really kept me in the game to get there.
I really like that bit you mentioned of looking forward, like not looking at the first sale, but looking, okay, where do I want the business to be? Because then the sale is all natural, really.
It just becomes a part of the process.
Yeah.
And getting the first sale is so tough, and I'm glad you described it so eloquently of how you really evoke the feelings for people of what does this really feel like, and how do you make it feel good is by having the focus in the right place.
Yeah.
And I love that element you mentioned too. You didn't argue or negotiate price. You just said, this is what it's going to cost and this is what we're going to do. And we totally see far too, as you say, there's a lot of people out there that aren't very good at business. We see far too much of this, is this price okay? It's like, you decide what it's worth.
Totally.
Totally. We're gonna wrap up. So we'll have your links down below for the audience to get a hold of you. Do you have any special offers coming up? Any books? You going any TV talk shows? Anything we should know about?
So I'm actually going to be making a pretty big transition in terms of the I guess the overall branding of what I'm doing. I'm really shifting into supporting. I'll just speak it from the masculine perspective. What I'm up to is creating communities where men, they're still going to be developing their authenticity, their confidence, and what that's really leading to is living a more conscious lifestyle. So, and having a more of an impact in the world. And so that's really what I'm up to going forward, is supporting men so that they can live more consciously and they can also have a greater impact in the world. Because as men, we have so much power for good. We have so much capacity to create. And when men can really step into that place of like, hey, I can be my authentic self, and I can do the things that I want to do and really create a life well lived from here, not just for myself, but for others. I think that's really where the magic of life comes from. So you'll definitely see more of that, on my social media coming out soon. And then, for folks who are interested in finding out more about me, they can check out my website, which is andrewmundy.com.
And we got that link down below. I encourage everybody to check that out. And if you have questions for Andrew, post them down below this video. All questions get answered. Well, thanks for being here, Andrew. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you
Andrew.
so much, guys. Absolutely. Thanks for your time. And it was great to be here with you guys today.
All right,
Wait.
so that'll be the end of it. But he always leaves the recording going in case we catch any last minute.
Well,
bits.
unless Mike decides to say something smart. He hasn't done the last couple of times. He did it last time when I mentioned it. It was kind of funny.
I'm not smart mouthing a cop, man. I'm not stupid.
Well, as long as the cup is in Canada and I have a ocean between me, I'm good. I don't think.
Oh man.
I don't think there's any cops that's gonna be policing the Danish in the water.
No,
Yeah.
I think Sweden's in charge of watching you guys.
Nah, we watch them.
Thanks for watching our content. We put it out there to help people, and we sure hope it helped you. If you're the type of person that recognizes that you need help in your business in order to increase your revenue, you should book that 30-minute call with us. 2 reasons. 1, it's free for you. And 2, it gives us a chance to get to know you a little bit. We can figure out a direction to steer you in to help you out. Maybe that's working with us. Maybe it's not. Either way, book that call and talk to us.